So let's see who wants to go first. Maybe we can come back to Yosef since we haven't heard from him in a while. Okay, so Yosef, just to start us off, could you share with us, if somebody, a developer would like to have, the fastest way to reduce the ETTV, what would you recommend as like the simplest way or approach to do so?
Okay, so I think based on my experience, and also we can look at the formula again, the simplest way to reduce the ETTV value is to minimize the window to ratio. Yeah, but of course, we also have to compromise in terms of the aesthetic. Yeah? As I mentioned earlier, sometimes if the building no penetration, no windows also look not so nice. So that's why we have to balance. Yeah, what is the optimized amounts of window to ratio? And of course, we can try to minimize the window to ratio of the west and east orientation. Yeah, because east and west orientation will have the most heat gain, right? And then the second part, probably maybe we also can implement the shading, external shading. Yeah, but sometimes the problem when you apply shading, you also have to consider about the maintenance. Yeah, definitely the shading need to be clean, right? Otherwise, maybe after sometimes, let's say after 3 years, 4 years, then maybe the shading looks maybe dirty. So you also have to do maintenance. How are you going to clean the shading? Okay. And then the other option, yeah, of course, by choosing good thermal properties, yeah, for the glazing. Yeah, as I mentioned in my slide, BCR Foresta, they use the glazing with the thermal property, if I'm not mistaken, about 1.8, yeah, U value. So because of that, they are able to reduce the heat gain coming from outside. So I think this is the simplest way, yeah, how to reduce the heat gain from outside.
Great, thank you. This is very helpful. And just nice, there's another question related to that. Someone would like to know, one of our visitors would like to know, what is the difference between ETTV and OTTV, and how does that relate to sustainability?
Okay, so ETTV, basically, we only consider the aircon area. Okay, only the aircon area. So those for non-aircon area, we will exclude, not will be calculated. But for OTTV, we calculate everything. Yeah, that's why they call it overall thermal transfer value. Yeah, so in certain country, they have a different requirement. Like in Indonesia, they use OTTV instead of ETTV. In Singapore, we use ETTV. Yeah, so basically the purpose is almost the same. Yeah, to minimize the heat gain, but only the formula slightly different.
All right, thank you very much. And I would now like to invite some questions for Jose. So a question that I have is really, your projects are all around the world. How do you quickly gain knowledge on materials, culture, construction methods that are familiar and available to that specific country so that your design can be informed from there?
Good question. I mean, it has to do with definitely speaking with the client and all the stakeholders that are involved at that stage, right? So for the project in Tanzania, for example, the client and the contractor were already involved in the process. So it was quite. I mean, we could understand what was the expectation of the client right away, in terms of sophistication of the detailing or preference not to go to anything like curtain walls, or even in the lobby areas, ground floor, not to go to
I sent you the invitation, right?
Very large panels and things like that. So we had some, it was a good process because we could be in touch with the client right away and the people on in the field. That is an extreme case because we don't have projects in Tanzania very often, but so it's more into Southeast Asia, which we are more familiar with. And in Southeast Asia, I mean, we just experience, right, years of experience around, so helps us to understand what is what culturally and also in terms of industry, what is adequate to use in different places.
Yeah, understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I would like to now pose some questions to Ferdinando. So we have got questions on Lamy glass, because also the question is that because Lamy glass is bound, by a binding agent, how durable is it when it is constantly exposed to sun and installed outdoors?
That's a very good question. Lamy glass is kind of a wide word. As a matter of fact, there are lamy glass which are laminated using the most common material, which is called PVB. There are other PVBs, polyvinyl butyral plastic, which is, as I said, the most common. Then there are other lamy glass which are made with a so-called other material, which is EVA. EVA is ethanol vinyl acetate, if I remember right, and this has different features. And then there is a new material which is becoming quite popular in some application, which is called is a branded material. It's made by company DuPont, and it's called Synergraphic. Synergraphic is not a soft plastic like the other. It's not sold in rolls usually, but it's sold in sheets. It's thicker, typically it's very thick compared to the other. These rolls, the specific thickness is 0.38 millimeter, and you can laminate more layers on top to create a thicker interlayer of plastic, while the Synergraphic is a material which is roughly 2 millimeter thick. It's hard material, and it's mainly used in hurricane-prone areas in order and using some specific application like towers, control towers of airports, where it's absolutely necessary that the glass doesn't shatter no matter how strong is the wind. To come to the answer is not easy to give a direct answer, but what I can tell you in our experience is that the most important part in order to have a good lifetime of and a good performance of the laminated glass is the recipe of how the glass is produced. This is paramount. The recipe is meaning that the glass normally is manufactured in a processing line, then is kind of, allow me this funny word, more suitable for a kitchen than for industrial environment, but it's cooked in an autoclave, which is like a big pressure cooker where you are cooking the glass for a few hours with a set pressure over the atmospheric pressure and at a certain temperature, which is beyond the boiling point of the water, typically between 130 and 150 degrees. The recipe that the glass maker is using is what will make the glass last longer without the problems of delamination. I'm sure that the person who's asking this may have happened to see some examples of delamination. The typical example of delamination is when you see a bubble in a window inside the glass. This bubble is simply some air that has seeped between the glass and the PVB and the material and the plastic material inside, and it's very ugly. This is something that reduces the quality of the glass and aesthetically is horrible. So the answer is the lifetime and the quality of the glass is 99% of the time depending from the recipe that each glass maker has made the laminated glass with.
Yes, I totally understand where you're coming from, because we may be talking about a cake, but the cake can be different depending on, right, what goes inside, who is making it.
Exactly. It's a concept of the recipe. Since the recipe can be made with different ingredients and with different cooking times, with different many things, this is why it's difficult to set a regulation for the glass, especially for laminated glass. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Ferdinando, for setting that mindset. It's true. Thank you. I'd like to now move to Arviana. Some questions for you. And I will be asking you questions related to what we were talking about today. So one of the main questions is, where can we find ETFE supplier and applicator in Indonesia?
Okay, so it's still coming from, okay, supplier, right? It is not locally made. So it is still coming from the overseas. So like I mentioned, the resin is still coming from Japan and UK, and we do the fabrication in China and then ship over to Indonesia, for example, if let's say there is a project there. As for the applicator, those who can apply and install membrane structures definitely can install ETFE film. Yeah, but of course, from AGC, we do have our own supply chain, like our own team, AGC team, to do the testing, the consulting, the design team as well, the engineering team as well as the installation team.
Thank you. And also, this is quite a generic question, but I think you might be the expert on this to answer this question, which is, laminated windows energy efficient? That is the question.
Laminated, sorry, once again?
The question is, are laminated windows energy efficient?
Laminated windows, do you mean that ETFE can be used for windows?
I think it's more a generic question, but yeah, I thought since you have the wide range of products, you could kind of help to answer this question on energy efficient products, laminated windows.
Okay. So yeah, so from the glass itself, we do have from clear float and then like tinted and then low E, with whether it is a paralytic as well as the manitron. So if let's say we wanted to do it laminated, it's definitely better in terms of thermal performance as compared to the monolithic or the clear or the tinted glass. So I think it's referring to that, right?
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. And a similar related question is, somebody was wondering if it is possible to put solar panel strips or other materials into glass and to make it energy efficient.
Yeah, possible. So we do have a building integrated photovoltaic, so whereby it is like a laminated glass. So it's like a 2-pin of glass whereby the solar cell is embedded in between the two glass. Yeah, so the first glass that is facing external, it will be a low iron glass so that it can capture as much as sunlight to generate the electricity, whereby the second pane of glass that is facing indoor, it will be a low E glass so that the heat doesn't come in indoor.
Very interesting, yeah. Very interesting. Perhaps maybe after this, maybe Arviana also can send me some information about this.
All right, sure.
I mean, as a green building consultant, definitely we can give a recommendation to our client in Indonesia. Yeah, some of them also looking for opportunity how to generate renewable energy, at the same time also reduce the energy costs. Yeah, so this could be a solution for them.
All right, sure.
Yeah, because Arviana, you shared so many products, and there were many questions here that were very, they wanted to know about bulletproof glass, spray-rated glass. So I think I would like to direct whoever's interested in these specific products to just speak with Ms. Arviana, and she will be able to answer your questions fully. So I would like to draw us back and probably answer maybe 2 more questions so that we can close for today. So the question that I'm gonna read out is open to everyone to answer. Okay, so the question is whether the green building is passive or active kind of designed approach. how much initial cost increment to building are we looking at compared with standard solutions? So like, if somebody were to use like the most advanced green building materials, what would that maybe look like compared to going for more conventional materials? Somebody want to answer?
I think this is very interesting question. Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, maybe I will try to answer based on our experience.
Yes,
Because
please.
many times as a green building consultant, our client always asks us, yeah, what is the additional cost? How much is additional cost if they are going to go for, let's say, green building certification? Okay, so based on our experience in Indonesia, because Indonesia actually green building itself only being promoted since 2010. So before that, there's no green building rating tools. And up to now in Indonesia, green building still a voluntary basis, yeah, not a prerequisite or mandatory as like in Singapore. So for our green building project in Indonesia, when there's a project want to go for green building, right? And then every design must comply to the green building requirement. And then everything must be calculated in more detail, yeah, like what is the load profile, right? And also the glass, the ETTV building envelope. And ended up, after we try to comply to the green building requirement, actually we found that they also can save a lot of money, not only for the operating cost, but as well as initial cost. Why? Because without green building requirement, yeah, sometimes they just calculate maybe how to say, they just calculate based on assumption, yeah, maybe, yeah, because this one a bit sensitive. And ended up when we use the green building requirement, then we found that actually the calculation is a bit on the higher side. So we have to reduce it, yeah, especially on the cooling load system. So there's one project, my project, yeah. Initially, the consultant calculated the load was around 5,000 ton, yeah. And then after we do the calculation, we found that actually the load is only around about 3,000 ton. So the difference can be 2,000 tons. Yeah, I'm talking about the chiller system, right? And then after we explain to the developer, and then finally we compromise, and then they agree to reduce it to 4,000 ton. So can you imagine they are able to reduce 1,000 ton of chiller system, which is equal to 15 billion rupiah. Yeah. So if there's a people ask, if I apply or comply to green building requirement, does it mean that I have to spend more money? For Indonesia case, maybe not true. Maybe they can save money. Yeah, because we help them to identify which one that maybe not necessary for them to spend that amount of money. Yeah, but generally maybe I can say that if they plan the green building design from the beginning, from day one, probably the additional premium cost maybe around 2%, 2 to 5%. Yeah, probably can be less than that. Yeah, so this is based on our experience. Yeah, maybe to Singapore context a bit different because in Singapore green mark is prerequisite mandatory. So every building must comply to green mark. Yeah, so very hard to justify. Yeah, and then when you go to platinum level, then there will be additional premium cost for you. But of course, you can gain more saving. Yeah, green mark platinum, you can save up to 30% energy saving, which is very, very significant. Yeah, so hopefully my answer, can satisfy to the questionnaire. Yeah, is it answering the question?
Yes, thank you. I think that this question it really is probably in everyone's minds and also reflects an existing perception of cost that green might mean more expensive, but what you're saying is that that is not necessarily the case, and there can be a way for us to look at improving sustainability. It's very feasible for us to do so.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for that. And I would like to now wrap up our webinar, but what I would like to do is to have everyone answer this one question, which is, what are your hopes for the facade industry? And if you could summarize it in one line, what would that be? And now I'd like to go one round so that all of you can share your perspective, and that is how I will bring it to an end. So who would like to go first? One line for what your hopes are for the facade industry.
I go first.
Sure. Please.
One line, active glass, whatever it means. Active glass can be glass with solar paneling included. Active glass can be glass which change color or become a screen to create maxi screens. Active glass may become a shade, which is let's say, electric-driven shade, which turns the glass transparent when it's needed and can turn the glass for privacy or for saving from too much light or heat or sun during the peak hours. Active glass is the future.
Okay, active glass is the future. Thank you, Mr. Ferdinando. Who would like to go next?
Could say something?
Oh, Jose, yes, please.
Maybe the facade is part of the total building ecosystem where it's almost like self-sufficient building in terms of production of energy, reducing emission of carbon dioxide, potentially even producing oxygen, part of the total ecosystem of the building. That would be, I think, would be a very nice achievement.
Yeah, that is a good aspiration. Everyone heard that? Materials, builders, consultants, yeah? All right, and who would like to go next?
Perhaps maybe if I may, I just want to share that at this moment, I think one issue that very crucial that everyone must aware is regarding to the carbon emission. I don't know whether everyone aware how bad is our situation at this moment. Yeah, so we don't have enough time. Yeah, other than we have to change and we aware that we do something towards sustainability. Yeah, because as you know that the climate change now, the temperatures keep going up, right? It's more electricity consumed and means more carbon emission. Yeah, so this will make our environment suffer and also suffer for us. Yeah, so I think this is more important rather than just money. Yeah, we only have one Earth, right? What happens if we damage our Earth? So we have no place to live. Yeah, so this is something that we really have to care and consider. Okay, so I think that's all.
Very well said. Thank you, Mr. Yosef. And Ms. Arviana?
Yep, so I agree fully with Pak Yosef that, I mean, as a whole, sustainability is the new normal. Like, it is not like, okay, I want to do it tomorrow, the future, but it is what we have to do now, right now. So it is the new normal, especially when we are living in this climate emergency, I would say. So the urgency is there. And so the impacts of construction and the built environment is very crucial. The choice of materials has to be considered carefully when we want to build something. And of course, it does not mean that we have to be less creative, like just use the same thing over again, but rather be more willing to try something new that is more green, more sustainable. Because after all, sustainability is for the people and the environment. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arviana. That was a really, really nice way to end our discussion round. You were saying that we have to take action now. So I would just like to summarize what I've heard today. There were many questions, very interested in the materials, the methods, calculations, and also, of course, feasibility. Can this be done? Does this make sense? And we've heard from all of you. I hear a lot of the words active. If only the material itself can be active, and then it can become a system that is active, self-sufficient. And then we then talked about actually our own mindsets. We have to be actively aware of the carbon footprint that we are leaving behind, the impact that we are causing on our Earth. And what Arviana ended off with is that we have to do it now. There is an urgency. And I like what she said, that, it doesn't mean that we have to be less creative. And that's where we need our design partners as well to dream and to continue to lead the way, and we can work together to make this happen. So I'm really happy to bring this discussion to a close. Thank you again. All right, so we have now come to the end of the webinar. I would like to thank all of you who are here with us. Thank you for joining us today. We really hope that you've taken away some valuable insights. There's just so much knowledge here, and you know that you can always reach out to them for more information. So I'd like to thank all our speakers once again, Mr. Yosef Lim, Mr. José Cláudio Silva, Mr. Ferdinando Lucchesini, and Ms. Arviana Onasie. Thank you to our sponsors, AGC Asia Pacific and Biesse Group Asia 2. Do note that there are other exciting webinars coming up. This is not the end, so please look out for that. What will be coming up next is Glasstech Asia times PERAFI webinar series number 4. And the topic is going to be on digitalization and the future of facades. That's going to be on 18 November at 2:30 Jakarta time, same as today. It's going to be a power-packed presentation and different perspectives from different countries.